All right, everybody, this is Jay English, and I want to welcome you to the next episode of the Cross-Cultural Coach VideoCast. And I am here with one of my best friends, man, somebody that has been there for me for a long time. He has seen the ups and the downs. He has talked me off the cliff when I was ready to jump. He kept me from slapping multiple people when I had both hands ready. I used to call PG when I was at work and be like, PG, I'm quitting today. He's like, no, brother, you can't quit. You got a wife.
Right, for real. I mean, that's the same thing for me, man. So I'm happy to do it, bro. Proud of you, bro. All that God has done. And I see you out here, man.
Come on, man. I'm trying to be like you, bro. So, he has been just an incredible mentor for me, starting from really scratch. So we actually met each other at Journey Church. So, which is so crazy because now I'm literally back at Journey Church. Yeah. I volunteered with H2O, which was a youth ministry back in 2012. Me and P. John, I was running around with him, and P. John brought this dude in to speak one night. And I remember my first conversation with him. I walked up to him and I was like, hey, look, wait a minute. I'm the only black piece that's supposed to be running around here this time of night. He said something crazy about I'm gonna have to move over and make room or something.
Right. What you doing here? There's another one?
And I knew with his response, man, that we was gonna get along. So, we chopped it up that night, obviously before service. At that time, Sonia and I were leading worship. And after service, we would always, all the leaders and everything, go hang out at Applebee's. And this man and his bodyguard, Kelly Harris.
You can't say bodyguard, bro. I'm gonna put him out there. Shout out to my guy, Kelly. You fouled for that, man.
Look, Kelly Harris, that's my guy, man. I love him to death. But I remember you and Kelly coming out, and we just had such an incredible time with you two hanging out, and didn't know like 6-7 months later, because we didn't even communicate really after that night. No. 6-7 months later, just reconnected through some craziness that God did. We ended up showing up at Park Lawn really randomly and running into him. It's a whole joke behind my wife not even remembering who he was, and that's a whole different.
He's so dirty, bro. God is good, though. I'm letting it go.
Yeah, man, don't hold it against her, man. She bad with names and apparently faces too.
Right. Right.
So we hooked back up, and really God used him. This man was my internship coordinator at Park Lawn Assembly of God for 2 years. He helped get me into district school of ministry, where I became a licensed pastor. He walked me through so many things. The first time I did a lot of stuff, this was the man that was talking to me in the background and having conversations. My first wedding I did, he came and made sure I didn't mess that thing up, because I would just hit him like, PG. They don't know this is my first one, but so it's been awesome. So, bro, tell me, how you just moved recently. How are things going?
That's amazing, bro. We just recently located to Georgia. So now I'm on staff at Trinity Church, located in Sharpsburg, Georgia, kind of metro Atlanta area. And so, man, it's been amazing, bro. A beautiful church, a beautiful, diverse church, healthy, amazing leaders. And man, I'm spoiled. They love your boy in the South, man. That's all. Yeah, Southern hospitality is real. So, but no, man, that we've been blessed. Amazing situation. As you and I talk, just being the way we're wired, leaders who trust us enough to give us the space to create and all of that. So we're having fun, man. Despite, the pandemic and all that good stuff, we're enjoying it.
So how's wifey doing?
She's great, man. She's doing the nursing thing. So, the healthcare right now is tough.
Yes.
So, but she's been blessed with another amazing physician, bro. She got hired in the middle of a hiring freeze. So
that's how you know God is crazy, man.
Yeah, I mean, the healthcare is difficult, but I know she enjoys the people she's working with, and she's in a good place. So it's fun, man. We're enjoying it, dude.
Okay, now I know before you left, you picked up a little dog, but not so little.
Nah, hey,
how your friend doing?
I don't talk about she's honestly, bro, she got worse, man, because she's all over the house now. She got her own backyard. She's demanding, bro. I'm like, what is going on? So, but she's good. I mean, then the truth be told, the church, they spoil her too.
Yes.
Squeaky toys and treats. And so she living the life, man.
That is awesome. I mean, I'm like so glad to hear that things are going well for you. That's always been our prayer. You know, again, you guys have been amazing for us and to us for years. And you
Right.
know, it's different when people love you and you can't offer nothing. You know, like that's the type of love that I think everybody wants, but you don't always find. And you guys loved us before we were even in a position to do anything in return. You know, when I was still trying to figure out who I was
But
and what I was supposed to do.
I saw it in you. You know what I'm saying? And I saw it. And then there's like always a set of intangibles that come with great leaders. And so you had audacity, you had, you know what I mean? You had the boldness, and that's half the battle,
Yeah,
right? I'd
yeah.
rather tell somebody to slow down than have to pull them along. And so I knew, I was like, wow, this dude has got it. And, I'm blessed to be in the space I'm in, because that's my heart, bro. I want to use every ounce of what I got to help someone win. You know what I mean? That's what it's about to me. And so, yeah, man, just, I mean, the joy I get from seeing you win
Yeah.
makes it worth it, because being a part of the journey, seeing the challenges and all that, but seeing where you are today, man, I salute you, King. I see you out here.
Oh, come on. Well, brother, look, we're here tonight to have a conversation I think has to be had. And I can't really think of a better person to have it with. Somebody that I know, somebody I love, somebody that I know has navigated this area, and God has put you in a position of leadership even in this space. And that's in the area of mental health.
Yeah.
I don't know if people really understand specifically from a Black perspective how important that is
Yeah.
and the things that people are navigating and dealing with. And then for those of us that maybe aren't dealing with it in the same way or are not, you know, our journey looks different, even figuring out how to be supportive. So I want to say first and foremost, thank you for being here, for being open to this conversation.
Absolutely.
Definitely appreciate you. What I want to ask, if you can tell a little bit about yourself,
Yeah.
and tell a little bit about your story and kind of what has happened. And for those of you that are tuning in, you know, again, I want to welcome you. This is the Cross Cultural Coach VideoCast, and I'm here live with Pastor Greg Washington, who also serves as the president of the board for Mental Health America. We're having a conversation about mental health, specifically in the Black community. I'm going to ask if you don't mind, please share this to your pages, share this to your friends and family. We want to be as much of help as we can tonight. So PG, I'm gonna turn it over to you, man. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Blessings, bro. So yeah, man, I grew up in Denver, Colorado. Grew up in a single parent home. Just my mother and I. My father was present for a little bit, and things didn't work out. So my mother being chronically ill, man, she did the best she could. I remember the first time I realized we were struggling. I saw a pay stub, and for the annual income, it said 15,000. And I said, "Whoa." But through all of that, she sucked it up between her and my godmother, my aunt, my Kathy. They raised me. Um, but the typical complexities of being a young African American man, especially with not having a consistent relationship with your father,
Yeah.
um, you know, being angry, being not knowing why the anger was there. So growing up, man, just like anybody else, I did my thing and tried to be relevant, but ultimately I knew that there was a bigger purpose. And so I've just been blessed, bro, to just like yourself, have opportunities where God could grant me exposure. And so I think through that exposure, it's allowed me to evolve. It's allowed me to heal. But so couple that though with my upbringing,
Yeah.
um, just like I would say any African American upbringing, and I say that because there are things that we are taught at a very young age, right? And it's not out of intentionality of parents trying to inflict fear or anxiety on their kids. It's actually out of, I want to keep my child alive.
Right. They're trying to protect you.
Yeah. And so, we're taught to be cautious. We're taught, don't go in groups or ride together in a group of car, but we're taught to make sure you have your hands on the steering wheel and be cognizant of what you're wearing and all of that good stuff. So, all of that type of stuff, man, it generates anxiety, and so I've lived with all that, but, I know I'm not the only one. and through various different circumstances in my life. But being married in 2012 brought me to a real place, because for me, I think that was the first time I had to deal with me, you know? And so like now when you're married, you can't hide anymore, right? So people see things that you don't. So being that my wife, she was saying, hey, are you okay? I'm wondering, I'm not. And I just remember feeling stuck, right? And so it literally took me, bro, having a breakdown, a literal breakdown, having to be hospitalized because of the magnitude of it. And I tell people all the time, that was the best, craziest week of my life, So um but through that, bro, I've taken it and allowed this mental health journey to be something I use as an asset. And so because it was so close to home, I said the least I can do is be an advocate.
Yeah.
And so yeah, here we are today. And so I think for me, mental health, not just within the Black community, but mental health as a whole is vital,
Man,
especially looking at 2020.
yes.
It got us all. We
Let me ask you
collectively took
this.
that L.
Let me ask you this. When did you realize there was something else? Because I think all of us go through stuff where it's like, hey, I'm having a bad day. Hey, I'm feeling, I remember. So, this is, again, we talking about in the Black community, man, when you start talking about you dealing with depression or whatever, you get some crazy responses from parents and all type of stuff. I remember having a day where I felt depressed, and at least in my mind, my mother came in the room and she was like, "What's wrong with you?" I said, "I'm feeling depressed." She said, "Boy, you better get your depressed self up and go do some work or go clean up something."
Yeah, you all right.
Being depressed wasn't like, it was just, it was something you chose to do, apparently, according to Black people. So at what point did you realize, hey, this is not just a day, this is not just, a bad couple of days, that maybe it's something else going on?
Yeah, man. I think, okay, so, being married, but then, bro, like when you're winning in life and you're still not happy, you know what I'm saying? And I'd be going places, and I've been all over the country, and overseas, all before the age of 30. So, things were going well, but I'm finding myself after some big event, I'm laid on the floor in a dark room for 3 days.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And so the scariest thing about it was I learned how to suppress it to the point where I could be effective, yet still cope in various different ways. Ultimately, it wasn't healthy. But to your point, Jay, our parents, now I understand they were doing that as a means of, hey, we don't have we don't have an option but to survive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the only thing we know to do is to shuck it up. We're going to keep pushing. We're not going to let it stop us. But the truth be told, man, a human being, the human body, whenever it's exposed to trauma, it's going to respond some way. You know what I'm saying? And so a lot of our trauma wasn't even intentional. It was just by means of learning how to survive as young Black men being raised by Black mothers.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man.
Wow. Wow. So how did that affect, your marriage? So you said, really this started coming to light. You get married, you have to deal with you. Now you're living in a space where someone else is looking from the outside in now, and you can't necessarily get away from it. How did that affect your marriage life?
Yeah, no, great point, man. Bro, when you're, I think for me, the real genesis of it was being able to look at Tiffany, being able to see her and say, God, I at least want to have the ability to enjoy, the life and the wife that you gave me, right? To see somebody trying hard but you just can't be happy. That was my driving force, So for me, being married, knowing that someone else is being affected by me, even if I can't control it, my love for her says, hey, I'm willing to do whatever I can to become a better person. So, it was difficult though, because we didn't know what it was early on,
Yeah.
And so even now, we've evolved in that journey. She had her own process, because when you're supporting someone with mental health issues, it's a whole different ball game as well. But it originally it was a challenge, but actually now it's been something that was seamless.
Okay.
But Me, man, that was my driving force because my pride's not gonna let me just go to nobody counselor. You know how I am.
I already know.
I got to say because we on live, but
Right.
help me, Jesus. But I'm not going to nobody's counselor, man. But I care enough to say, you know what, if I'm an issue, I'm willing to look within and find a way to resolve it. So marriage, man, that was the catapult that started the journey for me.
Okay. Now let's talk a little bit about, a lot of people may not understand how the Black community tends to view mental health.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. We all know, and I'm gonna say every Black person, we know people in our family that should have been had some help.
Yep.
I grew up where, okay, y'all, look, for those that don't know African American community, we will lock Uncle so-and-so in the attic for 23 years. And we will make sure we take care of him. We will make sure we bring food upstairs. But, you go to the house for a get together and we be like, tell the kids, don't go up them steps.
Yeah. Right,
You know
bro.
What
like Sandlot. You know what I mean? Like we grow up knowing something exists on the other side of the door that we've never been exposed to. Man,
you dare folks to see how close to the door they'll go.
Right. You hear something in there? But and our people, how's he doing? He all right. He just ain't well.
Yes. We know he's not well.
Yeah. And so, but to that, Jay, a lot of that is, as African Americans, we've never really had exposure to get help for mental health. So, I mean, if we want to really get real, we got to go all the way back to slavery.
Yes.
And the trauma that was birthed through that and all that we've had to endure. You know what I'm saying? Men had to literally watch their wives be raped and could not do anything about it. And you want to tell me that doesn't affect somebody?
Yes.
Parents had to watch their children taken away from them. You know what I mean? But in order to survive, we had to create a mantra that we're going to keep pressing and we're going to keep moving. And that's what's enabled us to withstand opposition all these years. However, though we kept pressing, we never took the time to process. Right?
Yeah.
And so that has led us to be detrimental in some capacities because issues aren't resolved. Now it's becoming a legal matter. You know what I'm saying? And now we're dealing with these very different things, and segregation doesn't help. But when we look all the way back into Black history, you can start to understand the why. And our parents, hey, well, that's how my mama raised me.
Yep.
Okay. And that's generational, bro.
Yeah.
And so, but for me, even within my family, I knew once the God had given me the ability to have exposure, the best thing I could do was tell my story. Number one as a man, but number two as a Black man. So,
well, brother, you helping people tonight just by openly acknowledging and having the conversation. Because I mean, if you won't even acknowledge there's a problem, how could you ever deal with it? And to your point, I know that growing up, and for a lot of people, even if you knew someone could use the help, number one, where do you get it from? Number two, who paying for it?
Yeah.
And then many times it was, again, going back to some of our history, stuff has been done to us from a medical perspective where we don't have that level of trust.
Right.
So wait, you want me to come in here to this total stranger and tell him all my business?
Right.
I'm not doing it. Absolutely. I'm not doing it. I'm not talking through that. I'm not talking through this. I've barricaded my mind to that. So we're not opening that door. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what he might do with that information. I don't know what he might say or who he might share that with. Like, it's all this stuff that we deal with. How did you navigate some of those things? Obviously coming out of the community that you did, growing up how you did, was it difficult for you to seek help initially, or how did you kind of work through that?
Because, man, we're conditioned by how we're raised, and all of what you said could be coupled in this phrase. I don't know him like that. I don't know you like that. Right. All right. That's how hey, I don't know them like that. And, but again, once I realized, okay, things aren't well, you have the ability to now get help and seek treatment, and you see things stemmed from childhood. Then begin to realize, all right, if this is what it was, I'm going to allow myself to just sit here for a moment. Because truth be told, for many African Americans, people in general, when it starts getting real, nah, I'm good. But I was like, you know what? Let me just kind of allow this to happen. And in doing so, the moment I start feeling better, the moment it's like when light bulbs start hitting, I'm like, wow, this is real.
Yeah.
And honestly, Jay, it was a matter of allowing ego to die, letting pride down. And so then I was like, if I feel this way with who I am, the person that God made me, the best thing I can do is be a voice to it.
Yeah.
Because you know how it is in church world and business world, people respond differently to people that look like them, you know? And I knew within our community, within the Black community, it was a rarity and it was rarely discussed. And so, I just took it on as something where, you know what, that's my mantle, that's my cross to bear. And honestly, bro, it's led me from the inner cities to professional sports,
Wow. Wow. Now, because I know, people may not know, man, you was an athlete too. Back in the day, PG used to just run around and throw people down on the ground just a little bit.
Yeah, man. That's the anger, boy. Get out somewhere.
Yes. So you played football. Did being an athlete make that harder in any way, shape, or form? And the reason why I asked is because obviously in high school, I know for me in college, we had a very different view of the athletics, just being honest. There was a view of who they were. Typically they were more popular for obvious reasons. Did that play a role as well? Or does that play a role for people that you've even come across?
Oh, absolutely. I think the more you are acknowledged and the more people become aware of you, the more pressure it puts on somebody. You know what I'm saying? So what it really does ultimately is it just helps you suppress it, which isn't good. So within that world, I found that, wow, nobody focuses on the athlete, right? And beyond who they are, their notoriety, but who sees them as a person.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so as I remember from my days of being an athlete, again, it's another mantra of press, keep pushing, keep moving. But now I think as mental health is evolving, that I had when I was an athlete, we're being made aware now that, hey, the competitive edge is not just physically, it's actually mentally. Mm-hmm. And so, but like I said, hey, playing angry allowed me to get a college scholarship.
Yeah.
But ultimately, man, I knew even as being an athlete that, hey, a lot of us, we're crying out for help, but because we're great at what we do, people won't even see us. So that's what made me say, you know what, this is a mission field. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's why, I don't post a lot. I don't tweet a lot because for me, it's not notoriety. I want to give them a safe place to land,
wow.
A listening ear, something they don't have. So,
man, look, I've got a few statements over here that are coming in, and I was just looking at a couple of those. I'm seeing actually my cousin Chris Thomas, who's on here. He said, "This is why we fight for social justice. This is why the fight for social justice is so integral. It helps weed out those who are not good faith actors in clinical settings. Mm-hmm. We need proven professional ethics. I mean, people don't understand how racism, cultural bias plays a role even in the medical field sometimes. Yeah. And we've been on the negative end of that. Yeah. He also made a statement about the reality that many times we're not afforded the access.
Absolutely.
Culturally.
Absolutely.
Man, look, so I'm gonna bring this to a very simple thing for people that may not understand. Folks will be like, why Black people don't know how to swim? Well, because typically there's no YMCA or pool in our communities. Let's just be honest. Access to water in the form of the YMCA or pool is normally not readily available. So we don't learn that because the access normally isn't there. And that's just being, an extreme. So we take it to what we're talking about from mental health.
Absolutely. And he's absolutely right. right? Because I believe this: exposure breeds enhancement.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
it's hard to enhance if you have very limited exposure. And because of my exposure, I knew I had to go hard. I had to wave the flag, and I had to, you know, use my platform and influence in such a way to bring awareness, to provide those opportunities. You know, so that's, you know, how I got involved with Mental Health America. You
Yeah.
know, right there in the city of Milwaukee, I'm thinking like, all right, what can I do with my platform? And so, graciously, you know, got a great relationship with their president. Shout out to my girl Martina. Um, and through that, you know, jumped on the board and then actually became board president. So check this
That's so
out.
crazy.
Youngest in history, first African American in history.
Wow. Come on, bro. Come on. Yes.
I say that because I used my challenges and I used my pain, and I said, listen, there has to be a way that I can give back. And I knew that if I'm graced to deal in two different worlds,
Mhm.
what I'm learning, I'm gonna position myself in such a way that my vulnerability, I wanted to bring awareness to other people.
Yeah.
But watch this, coupled with here's a starting place. And to your cousin's point, man, that's the problem. Limited resources, you
Yeah.
know, no access, right? You're living in communities where there's massive unemployment, you know, and then you got to look at some trauma. So if you want to
Yes.
keep it real, let's look at the context of Milwaukee, right? I believe at one time Wisconsin led the nation in African American male incarceration.
Yeah.
So how many fathers are not in homes? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That level of trauma, right? And then, you know, looking at that and looking at the limited employment, and then excuse me, ultimately, um, I'm sorry, what I was thinking. Oh yeah, and then coupling that with something like 53206 within our context of Milwaukee, the most dangerous zip code in America. It's all started from limited resources and limited access. And so, bro, I've done things, man, where I've spoken places and I've had grown men come up to me, like, right, like
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. I was speaking at MATC, and I had these two big black dudes come to me, man. Honestly, I thought I was about to go down. I thought I was about to get jumped. My mind.
It's coming for you.
Yeah, and then first line is, hey, bro, I just got out of jail. I said, oh, gee, it's over. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. But I looked at him, he was crying.
Yeah.
That's what happened. I was like, he's like, hey man, thank you for sharing your story. And I said, what do you mean? He said, had I heard this 20 years ago, I may have never had to do that bid in prison.
Wow.
Nobody taught us how to process our pain.
Yeah.
Nobody gave us another outlet or access. So from that moment, Jay, I knew, all right, this is why I got to wave that flag so hard. Because even within the realm of health, we need to bring about justice. We need to ensure
Amen.
that people have equal access to equal resources, right? And sometimes, if we can get psychologists, we won't have to lean so hard on our penal system.
Come on.
And behind every deed is a need, right? And I get it. I'm no way um, acknowledging that violence is the way and crime is the way. However, we have to come to a point of realizing that people become a product of their environments.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not ensuring that in their environments there's an equal level of resources, you know, that's what leads to this. And so for me, I said, this is my lane.
Yeah.
Right. You know, it looks various different ways, but for me, this was my lane. And so yeah, and sorry, I get passionate about that.
Oh no,
My
this
heart,
is
man. I want to bring access, bro. That's my heart, is to
good.
to provide resources for our communities. We didn't have this as children, right? How much further along could I have been had I, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Not that I regret anything, but even looking at some of our children, right? if they had access to counselors and various different entities that can help them with social skills and all this stuff, hey, the turnout could be a lot different.
Right.
But that's so yeah, man. So
Man, look,
you got
I
me
appreciate
dog.
Hey.
I'm
No, I appreciate it because I think that's what people need to hear. That's what we have to have these real conversations. When you look at the disparities, specifically from a mental health standpoint of the people that are in prison. And, we know that the system works different for us. So we know this, statistics tell us, we know this is the case. And where one person of a different color or different culture may be looked at and they may be placed in rehab, they may be placed in a mental facility, they may be placed, under supervision while they're getting mental care, we're incarcerated.
Yeah.
We're locked up.
Yeah.
And then still not given the help that you need. You're just placed in an even worse environment that now we have to survive.
Yeah.
And we gonna do what we got to do to survive. But man, how many people did things that got them there that actually needed some help, that needed someone to talk to, needed someone to work through some things. And that's what led them down that path.
And here's the crazy thing about our society, if you want to keep it real. And when that happens, we start dehumanizing people, right?
Yep.
So now they're deemed as problems. Now they're deemed as threats. But watch this. Every criminal was once a child crying out. Think about it.
Yep, you're right. You're right.
For someone to grow up and do something, it's had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And so to your point, bro, that's why I go so hard, man. I'm trying to ensure that our communities have resources and that I can be a voice, because that's ultimately what we want to eliminate, man.
Wow. Now tell me, how did you even get in contact with, or how did this relationship with Mental Health America even come about? Because, obviously I knew you, I knew you the whole time. And it was just like, I saw what you were navigating and still preaching, still being a mentor, still like leading and doing incredible things. And then out of the blue, it was like MHA came up and I don't even know what happened. How did that relationship form?
No, it's amazing, bro. Church we were formerly on staff on at together, Parkline Assembly guys. Shout out to my Parkline people. I remember that was the first time that I took the platform and was vulnerable, right, and shared my story. However, I know from just ministry anyway, whenever there's a topic like that, we need resources. And in my mind, I'm like, I can tell my story, but I am not a counselor.
Right.
So I said, hey, in our atrium, I went around the city and got all of the mental health resources that we could, as well as people from the organizations to just be out in the atrium, providing resources for people after service. Jay, the only problem we had was they ran out of resources.
What?
Because me sharing my story, and when people knew, wow, it don't have to be this way, there's another opportunity, they jumped all over it. And so one of those organizations was Mental Health America.
Yeah.
And so Martina and I really cultivated a relationship, and she said, hey, I want you to consider coming on the board. Coming up. So I was on the board for 2 years, and then the former president, who, this is crazy story, bro, who is an older white male, said, hey, if we want to, continue to move forward, he has to be the guy, know. So, what that did for me.
Yeah.
So God has graced me to, now chair that board. But I say all that because it started with me sharing my story. And then once I provided a few resources, I'm like, okay, this is a demand.
Yes.
You know how many mothers came to me after that? What do you have for my son, anger man, all kind of stuff, Yeah. So once I saw the power of the influence in my community, I said, all right, man, here's it. This is it. And so partnering with MHA and being an ambassador, that's kind of how it happened. So
that's so crazy. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the resources that are available? Some of the things that, for people that may be listening or may know people who are navigating some of the things we're talking about, what kind of resources should they be looking into?
Yeah, man. I believe I sent you a few, so we can share those. But if you look at just starting place, I've shared a few of those resources, but primarily MHAWisconsin.org or MHA, MHAamerica.org. However, each state has their own sector. That's a great starting place, to see what resources are available to me. We have a lot that are available, per income base, but there are a lot of resources that we provide to the community as well. So starting at MHA America, I would say would be a great place to start looking.
Got you. So for those that are watching right now, again, I want to thank you for being here and hanging out with us as we continue this conversation. My name is Jay English. I'm here with Pastor Greg Washington, and this is the Cross-Cultural Coach VideoCast, and we're talking about mental health, specifically in the Black community, and just many of the resources that are available. Pastor Greg has been a longtime friend, and he's also serving as a president on the board for Mental Health America. And with today's climate, I want to shift a little bit. The craziness that's been going on for us as Black people, specifically in 2020.
Yeah.
COVID hit, then you saw what happened to Breonna Taylor. Ahmaud Arbery was like a modern day lynching. I don't care what anybody says. Anytime you can go jogging and people literally chase you down in a pickup truck, this is like something out of a movie, and you get shot and killed because you were literally jogging down the street in broad daylight. And then we had George Floyd. You have the uprisings, you have the riots, you have the marches, most of which were peaceful, but you have all of these things happening. I know that for you, and honestly, me too now, as an African-American pastor who serves on a primarily white and Caucasian-led staff, and even the community there, talk to me a little bit about, mental health in this climate with what we saw, what we saw in DC, just all of this stuff. Help people understand your mindset and maybe even some others in the Black community, how this affects us mentally.
I think looking at it, so when we see these type of things that are happening within our society, especially 2020, bro, which was atrocious, right? To those who are viewing it on the news, it was an event. Mm-hmm. But to people that look like me and you, it's our everyday experience. And so seeing that type of stuff affects you. Yeah. Seeing people that are the same complexion as you being treated unjustly only heightens your anxiety. Mm-hmm. I talk to coaches from the NBA, college, professional scouts every week, Black men admitting, I'm scared to death. Yeah. Pray for me. I'm lashing out. I'm on edge. And so all this does is heighten the anxiety and the PTSD within the African-American community. And it just pierces a wound that's constantly there. Yeah. Yet, from our genesis, we've had to press on and keep moving. But truth be told, in our workplace, we feel that way. Mm-hmm. I can't help it, right? You're driving up to your job and it's predominantly white, you're going to feel some type of way. Yeah. Right. And then there's times that we've had those experiences where we've tried to articulate and explain. And then the moment you feel disregarded or the moment you feel like you're not seen, it brings you to this place of bottling it inside. And again, it's another means of surviving. Yeah. And at a time like this, when we're affected, right? And oftentimes, not always, but if you're in a predominantly white setting, it's the most loneliest place in the world. Yeah. And we have to navigate that, And so I say all that to say this: those who always ask me, what can we do? Be mindful of the people of color around you, right? And also actually appreciate them, because it took a heck of a lot just to get out of bed and be at work today. Yeah. And let's just keep it real. You want to keep it all the way real? I love you.
Please, come on.
Right? It's a challenge when you look like George Floyd and have to love and lead people that look like the cop. That messes with my psyche. Yeah. But I have to keep pushing, and of course, now that, I'm more cognizant of mental health, but that's a real thing, yes. And so driving as an African-American, that's a real thing. Yeah. And so times like this, man, as much as there's anger, I believe the anger is just birthed through years of being hurt,
Yeah.
years of being disregarded. And so whenever this happens, it just pierces a wound that doesn't go away, that always exists. So, but every day, bro, African Americans or people of color go on their jobs and they feel this, but we're taught, at a young age how to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, we're taught how to exist in two different worlds.
Yeah.
And so we have our professionalism world, which is, if I'm honest, it teaches us how to navigate with those who are white in America, right? Because truth be told, what privilege is as a Black man, in order for me to succeed, I have to know how to navigate in predominantly white settings, right?
Right.
However, on the opposing side, that's not needed. And it's just a choice to do so. And so, but just people knowing that and understanding that, and even being willing to acknowledge it. These people are in our churches. They're on our jobs each and every day. And we're all experiencing it, and we're all going through the same thing. And yeah, man, like you said, 2020, times like this, hey, mental health is at its peak.
It is. And it's hard. I think you did an incredible job of explaining the reality that regardless of what I see on TV or what I experience in my own life, I still have to get up and go to work.
Every day.
And not just show up. And here's the thing that I've tried to explain to other people. It's not just showing up. I have to show up and produce.
Yeah.
And produce at the same level or higher than the people around me to make sure I maintain my job.
Yeah.
So I can go literally have a great morning, go to lunch and have something completely discriminatory or literally racist happen to me at a restaurant, on the street, at some place that I literally just went out to lunch for. And now I need to compartmentalize that because I got to go back to work.
Go back to work.
And I can't go back to work mad. I can't be the angry Black guy at work. I can't go back to work hurt. I can't go back to work showing, signs and lashing out on these things. I've got to bottle that in and basically ignore those feelings and still produce.
Yeah.
So when people can better understand that and know these things do affect us.
Absolutely, they do. Absolutely. And okay, let's lay politics and worldview aside. Let's look at human beings. People may not be able to empathize with the Black experience, but you can identify with what it feels like to feel hopeless.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
What it feels like to be ostracized or treated unfairly. And for the sake of that, another human being is living that way. If that doesn't compel you to show compassion, that's what concerns me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like oftentimes, and it's not even out of a place of intentionality, it's out of the privilege of not having to be aware of the world that we live in, right? And you hear things like, well, it's not like that anymore. Well, it's not like that here.
Mm-hmm.
To you.
Right.
You're right.
Yes.
But yeah, man. And then to your point, Jay, that's another way that we just have to suppress and we have to stuff, right? And so now more than ever, do people of color need to look into mental health because it's affecting us. But people worldwide, bro, because a year like 2020 and all that came with it, be it the social unrest and the pandemic, it affected us. And it's going to show up somehow. But with a mental health awareness, you can ensure that, hey, it doesn't have to be something that totally debilitates your life. So.
Well, let me ask you this, and this is kind of be, a couple of my final questions. If we know or are aware of someone in our vicinity, our family, a friend member, an associate who is navigating this space, how do you be supportive? What are the things that we can do? And that's always the question is like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. Should I say anything? Should I tell them like, bro, like I will go with you to get help, or is that even too far? Don't even say to get help. how should we care for people that are navigating mental health?
So let's take, are you saying within the racial specter or just
I
overall?
think just overall in general.
Yeah. Okay. Number one, acknowledging that is real. You know, if your arm is broke, you're going to go to the doctor. You know, if you have a chest cold, you're going to go to the doctor. And right. And so if you're having problems where you feel mentally something is off, you know, that's where the stigmas start. And so people don't see doctors because of the stigma. I'm going to be viewed as crazy. I'm going to, if I do that, I'm going to be considered a nut, or, you know what I mean? And I'm never going to, but bro, the coolest experience for me was being in that hospital, because you know who I was coupled with? Professionals, business owners, professors, because something like mental health doesn't have a socioeconomic background. It doesn't have a color, it doesn't have a race. It's something that affects us all. And
Yeah.
so if we can just start acknowledging it, you know, and ensuring and enabling people and encouraging that it's okay to seek help.
Got you. No, I think that's great. Just being able to be honest and just continue showing a level of love and care for each other.
Yes.
Specifically when we know our brother or our sister is navigating a hard time or a hard space, being there for them. So I would definitely appreciate that. And, the last thing I really want you to spend a little bit time talking about this conversation, and I know you've heard it, specifically in the Christian world, where people will want to say, well, you don't have enough faith, or, well, we go to God, we don't go to doctors. How have you navigated being a pastor who does what you do? And for those that maybe haven't heard him speak, the man is amazing. God uses him in such incredible ways, the things that he speaks on, how God speaks through him. And you would never know, maybe he had a terrible week and he'll get up on a Sunday morning and completely be used of God to do just amazing things. How have you balanced your relationship with Jesus with the realities of mental health in your life?
I believe it was Apostle Paul said, because of the surpassing greatness of Revelations, I was given a thorn in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord, take it away. But he said, my grace is sufficient for you, and my power is made perfect in weakness. For me, once I got to the premise of understanding God, that there's power in my insufficiency, it changed the entire way I viewed him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it allowed me to actually receive grace, because I stopped doing and I start being. And so it's for me, it's really helped me learn who God is in a different way. But also, you look at things like, hey, Luke was a physician. You know what I mean?
And he was a disciple.
Okay. So I think sometimes, even coupled with faith, we don't always exercise wisdom.
Okay.
So if you break your arm, you come to me, I'm going to pray for you. And I do believe God can heal, but that healing can be supernaturally, but it also can come in the form of medication or doctor. And I think we have to get to this place where we stop compartmentalizing the way God can move. His ways are higher, his thoughts are higher. So as faith-based leaders, we need to be cognizant of that and ensure that we are empathizing with people, but also staying in our lane. The best thing you can do is refer, because here's the crazy thing about it. Sometimes people are dealing with these serious problems, but receiving pastoral care. And then I've heard stories of people committing suicide. The pastor his heart was in the right place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you're not a professional, you don't know how to navigate it. So all that to say, man, we got to look at God in a different way, in all of the ways he can move, So yeah, that's a great question. Oh man, I get that a lot. So
Thank you. Because I've heard that being said, I've heard that repeated in places. So to be able to get that clarified, I definitely appreciate you.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you again to everybody that has tuned in, to those of you that have watched, those of you who have shared, for those that will watch this and maybe will be watching this in the future. I pray that this is of help, that this information can be of help, not just to you, but maybe to friends or family that you have. I'm asking that you please share this with others. Can you mention, you said, was it MHA.org? Was that the website?
Yes, of course, it's Mental Health America if you Google that. But primarily for those in Wisconsin, MHAwisconsin.org. And that's a great starting place. We have resources from our organization as well as organizations in your surrounding states. So if you start with Mental Health America, they'll be able to guide you with, who's what in your state, that you can find resources and help. So
come on. And if you're looking for help with navigating cultural and racial issues within your organization, that's what my company is here for. Plain English was created to be a consultant, to be a friend, to walk alongside, to answer hard questions, and to really help navigate conversations around very difficult topics that a lot of times people don't know how to address. So I want you to know that we're here. This is why we do things like this. PG, thank you for your time, for taking out of your schedule. I know you could have been anywhere, probably talking to about near anybody. This man has been like the chaplain for the Bucks, and he do all type of stuff. Man, you still are you doing the chaplain thing via Zoom or something now, or is that still happening?
I'm still a team resource. So
come on.
Being that I'm not boots on the ground, it's a little bit more difficult. But yeah, I still work with the team, still have a great relationship.
Come on.
Hey, and that's what it's about, man.
It is. Well, I'm gonna need you to put a prayer through for the Bucks this year, because we don't need what happened the last 2 years to happen again.
Oh God, we need to finish in Jesus' name.
Yes, I receive it, Lord. I receive it. Yes. So you all, we thank you again for your time. We're gonna let you all go, but please share this. Hit us up with any questions. Feel free to drop things into the chat rooms or into the posts and comments, and we'll be looking to respond there. Definitely check out Greg Washington. He's on Facebook. He's on Twitter. He's on Instagram, doing just some amazing things. Go to MHA Wisconsin or MHA.org and check out their resources. And we thank you again for hanging with us.
Real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for those who are watching, saying, how can I help? You can donate as well to MHA.org, because it's a nonprofit organization. So the donations do help to provide those free resources for people as well. So
come on
out there real quick.
Yes, make sure you make those donations. Let's do what we can to help. So you all have a great night, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care.